Today I want to take a few minutes and just talk briefly about the discussion board this past week regarding renewing the commitment and also the videos that you watched. A number of you mentioned that it was somewhat depressing to watch and hear the stories, to see the pain that those communities were enduring because their schools were closing. So you have that on one side, and on the other side of the ledger, you have the bishop's statement saying we're committed to making sure that Catholic schools stay around for long periods of time. Now, one of the things that, again, I heard in one of the discussions was kind of the mentality that the sky is falling. That were we just kind of almost scaring people with this mentality of, oh my goodness, we're closing, maybe we should just shut the doors overall. I guess what I want to try to do today is just talk about what we need to do. First of all, Catholic schools are closing. There is no denying that. Now, there are also Catholic schools that are very strong. And in some jurisdictions, not many, but in some jurisdictions, Catholic schools are opening. Now, for a number of people, that questioning of, well, can Catholic schools survive, is a valid one. Why? Because of the fact that as our schools have closed, and they have closed in great numbers, over the last 10 to 12 years. What are we really doing? Well, let me make it very clear from my standpoint. What we need to do to make sure that our schools survive. It starts with the leadership in the school. And it starts with the leadership at the diocesan level. If Catholic schools are to survive, it requires strong leadership. And it has to be more than just words. For instance, as you saw in the bishop's statements, those words are very reassuring. But then when you looked at the videos and you saw schools closing, you saw parents and students devastated because their school, their community was disintegrating before their very eyes. And in many cases, folks were saying, well, we really didn't know. We didn't realize, we knew it was bad, we didn't realize it was quite that bad. What we need to do as leaders in our schools is communicate. Many of you, as you were telling me about your particular school and how your financial offices and your financial matters are handled, one of the comments that I kept reading was the fact that many of you knew very little about your school budget. And you were saying nobody really talks to us about it. You will hear me throughout the semester talk about this topic. I firmly believe that if you're the leader of the school, you need to clearly communicate to your faculty, to your parents, to your alumni, the financial state of your school. If the school is struggling, put it on the table. But you better make sure that you can answer the questions about how you got to that point. Now, some of you might say, well, I'm the new principal. I've just been handed all this. Right. You're in charge, and quite honestly, no one cares about the problems of the past. You're there to make that school work. It starts with communication. It starts with marketing. But more importantly, it starts with that vision. What do you, as a leader of the school, want that institution to be? How do you translate that to parents in your school, to your alumni, and also to prospective parents. When I was younger, those of us that went to Catholic school, we went because we were Catholic, and that's what our parents told us we were going to do. There was no option. But today's parents are looking at it from a very different perspective. They're looking at it from the perspective of what is best for my child. And there are lots of options out there, from the local parish school to independent Catholic schools, to independent schools, to charter schools, to public schools. Why would anyone want to come to your school? If you, as the principal of the school, cannot clearly articulate your vision for the school for this year as well as the next 5 years, my question to you is, are you in the right position? The school is going to look to you for leadership. When you start talking about budgets and building budgets, it starts with your vision and the school's mission. And how are those two things meshed together? The budget of the school simply reflects your vision and the school's mission. One of the things that we really have to look at is, what can we do to get additional revenue into our schools outside of tuition? Tuition alone generally cannot support the operations. One of you mentioned about the whole idea of the tax-exempt bond. Can you do that? In many states you can, but there is a caveat. And that caveat is this: you may not teach or evangelize in any space that was built using state, local, tax-exempt bonds. The universities have struggled with this because they have used this. I've used it myself. But what we had to do was say the space in which we were building, we could have no more than, I think it's about 10% of the time, did we ever do anything, even talk about religion. That's a problem. And you have to be very creative. And we're going to talk about ways to keep our schools alive and well, because our schools are important. They're more than just good educational institutions. You will hear me say this over and over again throughout your courses with me at Marymount. If all we are is good academic institutions, then we should sell the buildings, take the money, and give it to the poor. We are supposed to be more than just good academic institutions. Our mission is different. And you, as the leader of the school, need to take that flag and start running with it. Or otherwise, there'll be more videos about school closings. And unfortunately, you might have to be the one that faces angry parents and crying students when you tell them that the school is closing. We must operate as a business. If we don't have people coming in the front door, we have no way to pay the bills. If we can't pay the bills, we can't pay the teachers. And we cannot carry out our mission. This course is going to show you what you can do. We'll give you the tools, we'll talk about the tools, but ultimately it is up to you. You as the leader of your school, what are you going to do to ensure that you're not on that list of schools closing? And if you are, that you know you have done everything possible to make sure that the school would survive. And sometimes there are factors outside of our control. But we're going to talk about the financial viability and ask you to look at your school and say, in what areas are you financially viable? If you are not financially viable, then what are you going to do about it? Again, I hope these comments help and give you a little bit different perspective on the discussions this week. Again, great comments. Again, great start to the semester. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts for me, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email, shoot me a text, or give me a call, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I appreciate it and have a great week. Thank you.